Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Musonius Rufus's Lecture 12 is titled in English translation of Sexual Indulgence, which is not bad. The Greek is referencing aphrodisia, it's peri-aphrodisian, which doesn't just mean sexual indulgence, but about sexual matters in general. So when we think of the word aphrodisiac, right, that's supposed to get people all worked up sexually. Well, these are things of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and lust and sexual desire, pleasure, engagement, all of that sort of stuff. So Musonius is laying out a sort of strict Stoic viewpoint on these matters, which is also reflective of his culture to some degree, but as we're going to see, less permissive than some of the contemporary culture. So he's going to say, as it's translated here, not the least significant part of the life of luxury and self-indulgence lies in sexual excess. So there's only one word that's being translated there as luxury and self-indulgence, and it could be also translated as weakness in relation to desires and pleasures. Trufes, luxury, giving in to needing things to feel good. And the sexual indulgence there is aphrodisios. So engaging in sexual matters. And then he sketches us a picture of the person who needs a lot of variety. And it's stronger than just, craving a variety of love. They literally need it. They lack it. Deontai and poikilon, right? So a number of different objects, some of them lawful, some of them unlawful. They had rules or customs about what was considered okay and what was not considered okay. And we can think in our own time, sometimes people are like, well, there's a norm, I like transgressing the norm, or the fact that something is considered taboo makes it all that sweeter. Okay, so that was a thing back then. And then he talks about male and female. Ancient Mediterranean cultures, on the whole, were, at least with free people, a bit more indulgent about indulging yourself, particularly if you were a wealthy or powerful man, with people of both sexes. And he goes on to say, sometimes they pursue one love, sometimes another, so they don't stick with something. Not being satisfied with what's actually available, they are going to pursue those which are rare and inaccessible and invent shameful intimacies. So this is all a big problem, right? This is a sign of that weakness with respect to sexual matters. And he's going to make a contrast here between those who are wantons or immoral, right, or bad. So wanton, trufontas, that's a stronger way of translating this term trufes. They give in to luxury. Or, immoral, bad, kakus, that's a general term. They consider, those who are not that way, consider sexual activity as right, dikaiai, in marriage. So that's one of the key ideas. They're going to restrict their range of sexual pursuits, right, to somebody that they're actually married to. and it's going to be for the production of children, or we could say the reproduction of human beings, and not just for pleasure alone. Now, that doesn't rule out having sex for the sake of pleasure within marriage, but Musonius Rufus thinks that there's a problem if all you're doing is pleasure seeking, right? Then you could be not married. Of course, in a later lecture, he's going to say, by the way, there's nothing really super special about having kids because you can do that outside of marriage, and animals do that without getting married too. So there's more to it than that. But here he's considering this aspect. And he's going to say, those who are not self-indulgent, those who actually have some sort of virtue, that of temperance, are going to be looking at things this way. Then he shifts to talking about two particularly bad things to do. One of them is adultery, a big, big issue in ancient times. And he says that adultery is the most unlawful, paranomotati, right? So you really don't want to be committing adultery. That is invading, somebody else's marriage, or, breaking your own marriage vows or things like that. And he says that it's no more tolerable are what we would call homosexual male-male sexual relations, because that is also a monstrous thing and contrary to nature. And so he's throwing those out there as like, these are the worst things you could be doing. Now, of course, there is a lot of that happening in ancient Rome, right, of both sorts. Actually, in most cultures. And then he's going to go on to talk about what would be involved in actually having what's translated here as self-control, really temperance, the virtue, sophrosune, in this respect. So he says that intercourse with women, which is without lawful character, the people who are doing that, they're doing something shameful, something bad for them, and out of lack of self-control. So they lack the self-control that they should have. And so if you are somebody who's self-controlled, you're not going to be having sex with women that is outside of the law, paranomon, or not seemly, euprepes, right? That's going to be something that you're going to avoid. So what would be examples of this? He talks about relations with what's translated here as a courtesan, hetaira, prostitute, essentially, right? A hooker, if you like. Or a free woman apart from marriage. Or even, and this is where it gets very controversial for Romans, in a way probably not for us, because we have different sensibilities about this, with his own maidservant, a female slave, right? Says the fact that these relationships are not lawful or seemly makes them a disgrace and a reproach to those who are seeking them, those who are literally aiming for them or thinking about them. They're looking to achieve them. And he says nobody is going to try to do these things openly, not even if they've lost the ability to blush. And that tells us something really about this. People try to hide these sorts of relationships. Why? Well, because on some level they know that they're bad, that they shouldn't be engaging in them. And he says this is like a confession or admission of guilt. Then he brings up, as I said, it's a little bit controversial in ancient Roman times to, say, well, you shouldn't do these sorts of things. So one objection is, in adultery, okay, I get that. You don't want to mess up somebody else's marriage, maybe father a child with somebody else's wife, preventing them from actually having their own children. But, if you're having sex with some free woman or a courtesan, you're not interfering with anybody else's hopes of children, are you? No. So what are you so worked up about, Musonius? And Musonius says, listen, sinning, right, committing a hamartia, a wrong, and doing the wrong thing, adikia, even if they're not affecting another person, it's bad for you, right? It makes you a worse person and less honorable. It takes away what makes you a valuable person, morally valuable person, somebody who actually deserves respect. And so he's going to bring that up. And then he says, besides the injustice of it, the adikia, there's also the fact that you're engaging in self-indulgence, akolasia. That's the opposite of sophrosune, self-control, right? And he says you're like a pig rolling around in the mud. Why do we pick on pigs so much? I don't really know, because they don't seem to be, when it comes to sex, all that randy compared to, say, rabbits or things like that. But they do seem to like to roll around in the mud. Yes, we know that it's so that they can stay cool and all of that. But in the ancient times, they didn't understand that. And so now he's going to talk about people who have sex with their slave maid. And he says, a lot of people think this is A-okay. You're the master, the despotes. They're the slave. They have to let you do whatever it is that you want to do. You can use your slave however you want. And he says, I've only got one thing to say to this. So if you think that it's not shameful for a master to have relations with his own slave, particularly if she happens to be unmarried, let's change the scenario a little bit. How would you feel if your wife was having sex with a slave, a male slave, or, somebody else? Would it not seem completely intolerable, not only if the woman who had a lawful husband had relations with a slave, but even if a woman without a husband should have? Now, in ancient Roman times, the answer was, that's terrible. Women shouldn't be able to do that. And Musonius is like, so why in the hell should it be good for you to do it, but it's not okay for women to do it? Because Musonius is committed to a kind of equality of, genders in his own time. Men and women have both the same capacity for learning philosophy, for acquiring virtue. They're supposed to be held to the same standards. And then he says, it's stupid. If you actually think that men are somehow better than women, why in the hell would you think that what they're not supposed to do, you get to do? You should actually be better than them. He doesn't think that men are better than women, but he's making an argument here. He says, surely no one will expect men to be less moral than women, nor less capable of disciplining their desires, because if that was the case, women would actually be stronger than men. And he says if men want to pretend to be superior to women, then they need to actually exhibit more self-control than women do. And he says, what need is there to say that it's an act of sexual indulgence and nothing less for a master to have relations with a slave? Everybody knows that. Now, not everybody admits that, but on some level, everybody knows that according to him. So, very interesting lecture here. Musonius wants to confine the exercise of sexuality to legitimate partners and not only lay down rules, but say you should be cultivating temperance so that you're not attracted to a whole bunch of other people and indulging yourself because you don't have any self-control.